The Ukrainian armed forces have turned things into hell. The counteroffensive is burning up the enemy's front, 12,000 eliminated in a month, and the Russians are being ground up near Dobropilya. The enemy's offensive has stalled, the Russian front is collapsing. Ukraine is advancing, the bunker dweller is gathering a legion of death, but even they are fleeing the front. I'll tell you all the details next. Ukraine Segodnya welcomes you. I'm Renata Aslanova, and here are the latest events. The counteroffensive in the south is in full swing. Zelensky has made an important statement. A counteroffensive operation is underway in the Dobropilya direction, which has disrupted Russia's summer-autumn offensive. The enemy's losses are colossal. These numbers are shocking.
There was also a lengthy report today from Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky. We spoke with him for almost an hour about all the frontline directions, the preparation of our brigades, and logistics. Special attention is now, of course, on the Dobropilya operation, the counteroffensive operation. Since it began and up to today, the Russians have already suffered more than 12,000 losses. And this is only in the Pokrovsk districts and the Dobropolye districts, specifically since August 21st. Of these 12,000, they have more than 7,200 irretrievable losses. We also defend ourselves in all other directions. Kupiansk. I want to thank each of our soldiers who is now fighting in the city and on the outskirts. The Novopavlovsk direction is also not easy. And there, our active defensive actions continue.
By the end of the third year of the war, Russian generals are capturing Ukrainian towns and villages only on paper. Key positions and logistical hubs remain under the control of the armed forces of Ukraine. Moreover, Ukraine's defense forces are rapidly advancing forward. The occupiers are having a hard time in the Dnipropetrovsk region, as well as in the Zaporizhzhia and Slobozhansky directions. The enemy is being forced to retreat in disgrace. The occupiers' equipment and manpower are nothing but scrap. Watch all the latest updates from the front right now.
Time is no longer on the Kremlin's side, and in a prolonged standoff, Ukraine's chances of winning the war are much higher than Putin's. This is the conclusion reached by Western journalists who visited the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces. Ukraine's strategy in the war of attrition is showing unexpected results.
Armored combat vehicles haven't exactly become obsolete, but they have almost no chance of any success, especially if any kind of concentrated force is assembled. Well, there's almost no chance for a breakthrough. I'm just reminding you of the words.
Analysts say that the enemy's constant losses and adaptation to modern combat tactics open up opportunities for Kyiv's long-term victory. RER Diaz Throat Donetsk tactical deployment-eyed. Russia was counting on a rapid advance in northeastern Ukraine. However, key cities and logistical hubs remain under the control of the Ukrainian armed forces. By the fall of 2025, Russian generals are capturing Ukrainian towns and villages only in words and in fake reports for the man in the bunker.
Well, it's clear that the Russian army most likely won't be able to accomplish these tasks. But General Gerasimov, the chief of the General Staff, again, according to certain leaks that have appeared on social media, he reported to Putin about the latest successes of the Russian troops. In particular, he emphatically claimed that the significant grouping of Ukrainian armed forces positioned near the crucial Hlebanbik reservoir had been utterly destroyed, which is demonstrably not true. He also explicitly stated that Russian troops were actively clearing the southern districts of the strategically important city of Kupiansk, which is also not true.
What is actually happening in the long-suffering but still unconquered Kupiansk was shown by operators of the 8th Special Operations Forces Regiment. The enemy in this direction truly does not stop trying to break through the Ukrainian defenses. In the Kupiansk direction, there were at least 8 attempts by the occupiers to attack over the past day. However, the Ukrainian armed forces managed to thwart the enemy's plans to advance. The defense forces repelled assault actions in the areas of Petropavlivka, Novoplatonivka, Pischanove, and Stepova Novoselivka. Using strike FPV drones, the occupiers were driven into the nearest building, after which operators cleared several structures where the enemy had taken cover. Things are not going well for the occupiers today in the Zaporizhzhia direction either. There, partisans from the Atesh movement helped destroy the enemy's mobile command post. Concerned citizens provided the exact coordinates of the occupiers' communications vehicle, which was being used as a mobile command post to control enemy units. The destruction of this communications hub caused chaos in the occupiers' command system. Coordination between units and the transmission of orders were disrupted, which seriously affected the enemy's combat capability in this sector of the front. And here are the shots of the occupiers burning fuel and lubricants depot in the North Slobozhansky direction. In the past few days, our border guards have managed to destroy enemy hideouts and communication equipment. In addition, the enemy in the North Slobozhansky direction has also suffered personnel losses. Overall, in this and the Kursk directions, Ukrainian defenders repelled 7 Russian attacks. The enemy carried out several airstrikes on our positions, dropping a total of 9 guided bombs and conducting 198 artillery shellings. The situation remains difficult in the Lyman direction. There, the enemy attacked 12 times, trying to advance near the settlements of Srednyaya, Novosilovka, and Derilova. Nevertheless, a special unit of Ukrainian military intelligence manages to accurately and effectively destroy enemy forces, their equipment, and drones. Due to heavy losses in this and other directions, Russian troops have been forced to slow down their offensive pace, military analysts explain.
According
to the results of September, Russian activity on the front has somewhat decreased. The number of assaults they carry out is directly proportional to the number of personnel losses they suffer.
The official Ukrainian statistics also do little to encourage the occupiers to launch these meat grinder assaults. For example, September 2025 turned out to be a telling month in terms of the effectiveness of National Guard units. Thanks to the coordinated work of the guardsmen, the enemy has lost at least 677 vehicles, 418 artillery systems, nearly 200 radars, 17 multiple launch rocket systems, 29 tanks, and almost 70 ammunition depots over the past month. Meanwhile, the Russian army continues to strike exclusively at civilians and residential buildings, and it should be noted that this is happening not only in Ukraine. The day before, Russia's much-vaunted air defense system hit a residential building in the Belgorod region with a missile. The video shows the upper floors of the apartment building taking the hit. As a result, according to Russian media, windows were blown out in 15 apartments. About 20 parked cars were damaged. Officially, there were no casualties. However, judging by the footage published online, the destruction of the building may be much more severe.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
The peak momentum of the Russian troops' offensive is fading along the entire front line, said Ivan Timochka, head of the Council of Reservists of the Ukrainian Ground Forces.
This does not mean it will disappear instantly, but they are currently unable to build up their offensive potential. Even if we talk about the recently liberated village in the Dnipropetrovsk region, where the enemy was taken prisoner, it is also worth mentioning the Dobropilya direction. There, the salient that the enemy once created is now divided, with groups of enemy forces either operationally or even completely encircled, and the clearing of the area continues.
Ukraine's defense forces are systematically liberating territories, the military emphasizes.
We are now talking about the systematic nature of the liberated territories, because this is not some kind of accident or exception. In the Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhzhia, Donetsk, and Kharkiv regions, there are areas where the armed forces have already liberated settlements from the enemy. I'm speaking at the tactical level. A village is a tactical level.
He also noted that the Russians are trying to seize the initiative by concentrating their forces to achieve at least partial results.
This is the situation along the entire front line right now. Without bravado, we can say that the armed forces, despite all the enemy's pressure, are adapting their tactics and strategy to seize the initiative as much as possible. Of course, there is still a lot of work and many challenges ahead.
The military suggested that the success of the Ukrainian forces is linked to the transition to a core command system.
This transition has already taken place, and now the directions where the corps are holding their positions are more clearly defined. The sections of the front held by regular corps are being identified. As a result, coordination between them has become more streamlined.
It is becoming harder and harder to fight in Russia with each passing day. There is no equipment, and their human resources are also being depleted. That's why Putin decided to assemble a foreign legion of death. You'll be shocked when you find out whom the bunker dweller has recruited into his army. Watch right now to see how Arafia is turning mercenaries into cannon fodder.
There's been an addition to the ranks of allies fighting for Arafia, this time from faraway Latin America, Cubans.
They have been continuously fighting since the 1960s, ever since the influential Fidel Castro came to power in Cuba, and Cuban soldiers actively fought in various parts of Latin America. Subsequently, Fidel Castro had the ambitious idea to strategically land the Cuban army in Africa with the explicit goal to spark a significant uprising there and ultimately turn all of Africa into a communist continent. There were such crazy ideas. For many Cubans, given the country's pervasive and absolute poverty, engaging in war is often considered one of the primary ways to earn a living and make money.
According to classified U.S. State Department documents reviewed by Reuters, Havana is not just supporting the Kremlin's policy. It may have sent up to 5,000 of its citizens to fight in the war against Ukraine.
I knew the contract was real when I arrived. The Russian Federation brought me here. Everyone here knew why they came. I know this for sure. Everyone knew that they came for war.
This is Enrique Gonzalez. He joined the ranks of the Russian army to make some money by killing Ukrainians.
I found out my son had been recruited the day he left. I don't know how this process happened, because he never told me anything about it. I realized it when he was at the airport. He called me and told me everything.
The active recruitment of Cubans for the war began back in 2023 after the Russian dictator signed a decree allowing foreigners who joined the army to obtain Russian citizenship through an expedited process. After that, dozens of Cubans rushed off to war.
Poverty forces people to do it. If we didn't live in such poverty, I'm sure these people wouldn't have gone to Russia. But as it is, you just work, work, and work. My husband worked himself to the bone in Cuba, but one day he told me, "I can't take this anymore." I asked him what happened. He replied, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." That's the kind of man my husband was.
According to available information, recruitment centers are located in different regions. Candidates are promised salaries ranging from $1,500 to $2,500 a month. Citizenship or residency, benefits in case of injury, and other perks. For some companies, Moscow creates entire package deals. Payment, housing, legalization, all of this makes the offer attractive to economically vulnerable people.
The method of luring foreign soldiers is quite simple. They target the poorest countries, that is, Latin America or Africa, or even Asian countries, I mean North Korea. They offer more or less competitive pay, and people are willing to go fight. It's not just about the Cubans who are fighting. About 5,000 according to figures available online. We're talking about around 3,000 North Korean military personnel and several thousand mercenaries from African countries.
Intermediaries, including travel agencies, are recruiting thousands of foreign mercenaries for what is called Russia's Elite International Battalion. They use flashy advertising campaigns, promises of high earnings, and tricks when signing contracts. Recruitment and agitation mainly take place through Telegram, according to the Los Angeles Times.
The advertisement was simple. Sign up for a year to fight on Russia's side in the Special Military Operations Zone, that is, in the war in Ukraine, and receive citizenship, free medical care, money, and land, according to the Los Angeles Times article.
But not everything is done honestly. Contracts for foreigners are often drafted in such a way that they cannot fully understand them. They provide a translator, but there is no Wi-Fi. After arriving at the front, requests to terminate the contract require a payment of up to $6,000. Another method recruiters use is student and tourist visas. Many foreigners initially come to Russia on these visas and then sign a contract with the Russian Ministry of Defense. They are met by brokers and Russian officers right at the airports. To motivate new mercenaries, recruiters publish messages about supposed victories of the Russian army while concealing defeats. Despite all the risks, the interest of foreigners does not disappear. Meanwhile, the United States is stepping up diplomatic efforts to neutralize the Cuban factor in Russia's war against Ukraine. The Donald Trump administration is mobilizing American diplomats to fight against a UN resolution calling for the lifting of the long-standing trade embargo on Cuba. State Department documents emphasize that Cuba uses international initiatives such as the annual UN resolution to present itself as a victim of sanctions, even though in reality its citizens are involved in combat operations on the side of the aggressor.
The Cuban regime has failed to protect its citizens from being used as pawns in the Russia-Ukraine war, a State Department representative stated.
Every recruited soul is not just a number in the statistics. For the Kremlin, this is a chance to get ahead. Moscow is systematically expanding the pool of foreigners willing to fight for its interests. For the terrorist state, such people are nothing more than cheap labor and cannon fodder. For the mercenaries, it's a chance to make easy money.
What think about successes of Ukrainian armed forces? We look forward to your comments. There's more to come.